Hey guys, what's up? It is Mossy from Pro Gamer Academy back with another video about MSI for you guys. Got some great reception on the last video, and I was planning on doing a player rankings video type of video today, but it's actually going to be taking just a little bit while longer, given that it's kind of a longer form video, and I'm just doing my research, trying to make sure that I really can back up all of my opinions. One of the little bits of feedback that we got last week was I skipped over. There was a game I forgot about from Mad Lions at Worlds, where I believe they lost to Papara Supermassive. And it's funny, I actually watched that whole series. It was a crazy upset at Worlds last year. So because of that upset, I probably should have ranked Turkey as a region a little bit higher. It kind of just slipped past my mind, but that's sort of one thing to keep in mind. So instead of the individual player rankings today, I just wanted to talk about a couple players that are sort of notable for me. Basically, players to keep your eye on. Maybe if you're coming into this and you haven't watched many of the, you haven't watched much of the regional play before this, before MSI, before this international event. Here's some of the players that I'm sort of looking at. So I think it goes without saying that Perks is always someone to watch at, in any tournament ever. This is going to be a little bit of my NA bias, but I promise that there's no like ranking to these players here. Regardless though, Perks is actually, he's one of only two people, I read the stat the other day, he's one of only two people to win in both the LCS and the LEC, which is just like crazy. But yeah, he balled out in the LCS. I think he started out a little slower than people expected, given that he struggled a little bit to really show off his skills in the preseason LCS tournament. But regardless, Perks, he leaves G2, and this will be his first international event with C9. I think he'll have a lot to prove, and so for that reason, he's one of my players really to watch. Moving forward, a player from Dom1 that I always enjoy watching, given that I'm a jungle player, is Canyon. Like, if you're not really interested in Dom1 gaming as a team, maybe you're kind of over them. If you're a jungle player like me, I think Canyon is like one of the best players just to keep your eye on and like just see what he's doing. I remember watching him play like Graves and Lilia during Worlds, and basically he was like the jungle Canyon. Like, he was just like, it was that big of a jungle gap in some of these games. He was definitely one of the jungle players that really stood out to me. So any game, Dom1 gaming, obviously I think a lot of people have their eyes on them regardless, but if you're not really about Dom1 gaming as a whole, maybe look at the replays and specifically look at his perspective just to see what he's doing, and maybe you can learn a little bit from him and take it into your ranked games. Moving forward, this next one is super obvious. Armut from Mad Lions. Armut is basically the GOAT. He has had so much, like, he's one of like this. I mean, it's a young roster for Mad Lions, so I don't want to just call him like the young, like, top lane prodigy, whatever. But he has so much talent, and he kind of has like a huge personality and sort of a huge following, as far as I know. I know he has a really big fan base. But yeah, he was just popping off. He was playing the Gnar. He was playing against like some of these top laners in the LEC, who are really big names like Wonder and Odo Amne. So the fact that Mad Lions were able to make it all the way through the gauntlet, the fact that they were able to win out and being able to represent their region, I think that he was a major part of it. It's also worthy to note that, like, obviously we're watching, I believe this is game 1 here. Yeah, it is. Mad Lions were actually able to reverse sweep this series. If you weren't watching, maybe, or if you just for whatever reason, maybe you don't care about the LEC, like, this was super impressive to me, just watching Mad Lions basically ball out and win the series back. So yeah, Armut, definitely another player to keep your eye on. Finally, our last player to keep an eye on is another jungle player and another NA player. I know I'm super biased, But I am so curious to see how Blabber performs. If you watched any of the LCS throughout the year, Blabber, or well, throughout the year, I mean throughout the season, Blabber balled out. He had like such a huge champion pool. You know, we saw games of him on Rek'Sai, on Talia, on Lilia, like all of these like very different junglers, and it seems like he was just basically gapping any other. You know, I think he had a couple games here or there where he struggled maybe, but he was really gapping a lot of like the top LCS junglers. So I'm curious to see how the competition stacks up in terms of international, you know, potential. Especially looking at the groups here. I have to go back. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, I think Cloud9 in a group with Dom1. Yeah, seeing the matchup with Canyon. I just didn't want to speak out of turn. Seeing the matchup with Canyon will be absolutely fascinating to me, and it'll give us a little glimpse of like how North America is basically stacking up. One thing to note about like sort of the narrative of this year, at least for me, is that I feel like, you know, with the rework to sort of the LCS circuit, you know, like teams have to be a little bit hungrier, and you know, you also saw some changes to the academy teams, basically just like formats everywhere. They're trying to make NA more competitive, so I'm very curious to see, not only for MSI but mostly for Worlds, like how is this new format, you know, is it doing any work in terms of making us more competitive? Obviously, like C9 isn't the greatest example because they just brought in like this EU mid laner Perks to God, but the narrative moving forward now, I think, is going to be how is NA going to develop? Like, are we making sort of the right calls in terms of developing our players and developing our region? But yeah, I'm really excited to see MSI. Thank you guys for tuning in, and make sure you guys look out for the next video on the power rankings for players. That's it, and we'll catch you in the next one.